You're here at the Oyster Stores for the launch of your second album, To Evangeline. It's a fairly swift follow-up to In Time. Were some of the songs on this album around when you were sort of like recording the first album?
They were, yes. Some of them have been in a set that we've been playing live for a little while, and then we realised that when we were recording together, playing together, we realised that we were starting to write together in the studio whilst rehearsing. So I was able to record those sessions, and I brought them back to my house and just sort of managed to write the songs around the sound of this band that we've got. I guess it was half and half, really. The album is half old stock and half, new stuff.
So they've been road tested live.
That's right, and they've changed as well in the way that from when I used to perform them years ago, and so it's really worked out quite nicely, actually.
Thinking about that first album, there were a couple of songs, particularly Tom and Soulmates in Time, which seemed very personal, quite poignant lyric-wise. Is that a thread that's come through to this album as well?
Yeah, it always does. Yeah, and essentially, if you're writing songs, that for me, that's really where it comes from. In some respects, the albums can become too self-indulgent if you're not careful, and so I found it quite important to try to draw from other experiences, whether it's travel and going to a new place, and the feeling that you get when you sort of walk into a new room or a new country, for example. So this album's definitely got an air of that.
You're a Canterbury lad. There was such a vibrant music scene, late 60s, early 70s. Was yours a musical family when you were growing up?
It was, yeah. It wasn't necessarily in that sort of field. My father was really into big band jazz, and my mother sort of was more into sort of folk and I guess songs, really. So that was going on a lot. And then my brother, who's a drummer, who's 2 years older than me, was a big influence. So he'd sort of come back from school with the latest Rush album or something like that, and we were quite into that sort of heavier stuff.
And it's easy to wax lyrical about the Canterbury scene in the late 60s, early 70s, but it seems to me that the whole of the region, the whole of the North East Kent region at the moment, has got some really good music around.
I mean, actually, if you just take Canterbury, for example, this right at the moment, we've got Luke Jackson, who's really hitting it big in the folk world. Coco and the Butterfields, who seem to be set for big things at the moment. Also, Sid Arthur have just been signed to Harvest Records in the States, so they've been touring with Paul Weller. It is actually, I think, the first time that since the 60s that it's all aligned again, and there is another Canterbury sound coming together. And
it seems to, once someone's lit that match, it just, sort of like snowball.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, certainly the this event that Anna and Johnny organise, and Debs at Folk in the Barn, they're constant. They're all year round, but these things take so much organising, and people who love music come to watch them. So it's a great thing to have these people who invest their time in it.
Of course, you've got a parallel career going on as well, which is guitar making. How do you find the time writing, recording, touring, making instruments?
For me, the instruments are the 9 to 5 stuff. It's not difficult in certain respects. The problem is that it starts to invade into your personal time, obviously. So I've got a wife and son, and so it's trying to balance all of that. And without a family that accepts that, you wouldn't be able to do it. So I find they go hand in hand, because if you're making guitars, you're around music all day anyway. So I'll finish a guitar and I'll have to play it to see whether it sounds good and do any adjustments that need to be done. And so therefore you're constantly playing music. This sort of actually going out and playing and releasing CDs is in the last 3 or 4 years, and so therefore I had accumulated quite a lot of material, and I knew the musicians, so I knew who to ask to play and who would work on it. So in that respect, it doesn't take up too much time. this test will be what happens on the third album, because we're now out of material.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're in a position of always having an instrument you can pick up. If you've got an idea,
Yes,
you can just...
exactly.
Yeah,
And really, with an iPhone now, you can get all your ideas down, and then when you get a quiet time, you can, or the inspiration takes you, you can then go and, record it again, write the song, and you'll get it together.
Yeah. And I've often wondered, in terms of instrument makers, if you were sort of like a sculptor, a painter, or even an architect, the freedom of sort of like expression seems limitless, but what you're producing has to make a sound. That sounds like a guitar.
Yeah.
So how do you put your stamp on an instrument?
It evolves, I think. It just evolves through the years, and you change this and you change that, and you think, next time I want to do this, and what I do with the wood would be different to what somebody else would do with that wood, and that the tolerances that we're happy to sort of go to would be, again, different from somebody else. So I think it's a very difficult... It's a bit like your voice, Sometimes you don't know what you sound like, but when you're making guitars, I've got an idea of what I'm trying to achieve, and often when it's in the hands of the player, that's when it truly starts, becoming something.
And what affects sort of the tone, the warmth of an instrument? Is it the thickness of the body, the type of wood you use, the height of the strings, or a combination of...
All of those things, yeah. There's a bridge height can change the sound of a guitar completely. A neck angle can change the sound of a guitar. Obviously, the internal strutting and the thickness of the soundboard will also change the sound. So, and then the size of the instrument. Again, there's so many variables. So, what we've now managed to adapt is the fact that when we change the size of an instrument, and depending on what someone's trying to get out of it, and string tension will play a part of that, we now can sort of pretty much throw the dart at the board and hit the spot that we're looking for with it.
Right.
And I don't know, a lot of that's down to feeling. And once you handle the wood, and you can hear what it sounds like when you're rubbing your fingers on it before you even start making something, and you can tell how much vibrance it's got. So there's quite a lot to it, and it's a very difficult thing to explain. And I guess guitar making is just also a bit of a black art. No one will be able to say, I can definitely do this. All the wood is, from one to the next guitar, is different. So you gradually build up a picture, I'd say.
Just one final thing I just wanted to ask you. Sort of Boo Hewardine, Chris Drever, Eddie Reader, Graham Coxon, Elbow, they've all played your guitars. In a fantasy world, either anyone around now or someone that's no longer with us, if someone could pick up one of your guitars and play, who would you love to hear play your guitar?
Joni Mitchell, hands down. It would have to be. And for me, she embodies everything that a songwriter is, and a singer, and also one of the best guitar styles you'll ever hear, I'd say. So brilliant. Well, wish you all the very best for the release of the new album, and I hope to see you back here at Whitstable again soon. Yeah, thanks. That was fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you very much.